Okay, so we are streaming. So, rhombi. That's just the plural word for the word rhombus, right? So if we're talking about one of them, it's a rhombus. Rhombi just means more than one. Now, a rhombus is a parallelogram, which means it has two sets of parallel sides. So these two sides are parallel, and those two sides are parallel. It's parallelogram, right? But it's a special parallelogram, and we've already talked about this. It's special because all four sides are congruent. All four of the sides are congruent. Now, because it is a parallelogram, the things that we know that are true are that the diagonals bisect each other, right? So this is congruent to this, and then this is congruent to this because they bisect each other. But because it's a rhombus, here's a new one that you didn't know. Because it's a rhombus, they're also perpendicular. So the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular, which means they cross, not only do they bisect each other, they do it at 90 degrees. Okay? So that's a 90-degree angle right there, 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 and there. The diagonals also, I cannot spell the word diagonal to save my life. The diagonals also bisect the angles. So that means that this angle here and this angle here are congruent. And this angle here and this angle here are congruent. But we also know that these two angles are congruent to these two angles because of the parallelogram thing. Remember that? So that means that these angles are all four congruent to each other. And the same thing if we go this way, right? This angle and this angle, and this angle will all be parallel. I mean, not parallel, congruent. Right? So they're all congruent. Now, let's take it one step further and talk about a square. So a square is a parallelogram, and it is a rhombus, and it is a rectangle, right? So it has two sets of parallel sides because it's a parallelogram, right? All four sides are congruent because it's a rhombus. The diagonals bisect each other. So this is congruent to this, and this is congruent to this. But because it's a rectangle, the diagonals are congruent, right? So all four pieces are congruent to each other. Because it's a rhombus, these are 90 degrees, right? See, so the square has all the pieces of the puzzle. And then, of course, it has 90-degree angles here, 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 and here, which means this angle and this angle are both 45. Right? Right? Yeah. Okay, so now let's apply some of this, all right? So you got your 6'5". I think I'm going to have to grab one. My 6'5" I wrote on. So let me grab another 6'5" real quick. Okay, so here's what we've got. And we're just going to be looking at the top part of this. We're not going to do the proof or the bottom part. We're just looking at the top part for right now. So, number one, if dk is 8, find KL. Now, they're telling us straight up this is a rhombus. Okay? So, if dk is 8, what is KL going to be? It's also going to be 8. How do we know that? Because rhombi have congruent sides. So all the sides are congruent. So if dk is 8, KL is also 8. Okay? Next question. If the measure of angle DML, that's this angle right here, right, is 82 degrees, find the measure of angle DKM. So this angle right here. Now, remember what we just learned about the diagonals on a rhombus. Those diagonals bisect those angles, right? So, since those diagonals bisect those angles, if the whole thing is 82, what's half of that going to be? 41, right? So this angle is 82. So this whole angle is 82. So half of that angle is going to be 41. So that answer is 41 degrees. See how simple that is? It's probably some of the easiest stuff we've done. All right, I'm going to erase all this so that I can keep writing. If the measure of angle KAL, that's this angle right here, is 2x minus 8. Find x. Now, I know at first you're thinking, what? I don't know anything else. But you do. Remember, the diagonals on a rhombus are perpendicular. That means that we know the measure for that angle is 90 degrees. So we can set up a little equation where 2x minus 8 equals 90 degrees. And then all we have to do is solve it. So we're going to add 8 to both sides. Right? So we've got 2x equals 98. Divide both sides by 2. And x winds up being 49. So our answer for that is x is 49. See how simple that is? Okay. If DA, so let me erase this stuff here. If DA, which is this section of that segment right there, is 4x, and AL, which is that section, is 5x minus 3. Now, we know that because this is a parallelogram, those diagonals bisect each other, which means we know those two pieces have to be congruent to each other, right? So if those two pieces are congruent to each other, we can set us up a little equation where 4x equals 5x minus 3. And then we're going to solve it. So to solve it, we're going to subtract 5x from both sides, right? That gives us negative x equals negative 3. What's x going to be? If negative x is negative 3, what's positive x? Positive 3. Okay. Now, is that our answer? It's not our answer, is it? Because the question was, what is DL? So now DL is the whole segment. But we can just find half of that segment and double it. So if we do 4 times 3, because that's what we found x was, that gives us 12. So half of the segment is 12. So if we double that, how long is DL? 24. Right? And y'all, we don't even have to do any work on number 5 because we just did all the work for number 5. It's the exact same information, but they're asking for AD. Now, AD is this piece right here. We already calculated that. What did we figure out AD was? It was 12, wasn't it? Okay, we got one last one, and then I'm going to let y'all get to work on your own, okay? So on this one, it says if DM, now DM is this side right here, if it is 5y plus 2, and DK, which is this side right here, this whole side, is 3y plus 6. Now, what do we know about those two sides on a rhombus? What do they do to each other? And what are they? How do they compare? They're the same. So we can set up a little equation where 5y plus 2 equals 3y plus 6. And then we just need to solve it. So we're going to subtract 3y because that gets rid of 3y. And I'm going to go right ahead and subtract 2 at the same time so I can get rid of that 2. So I have 2y equals 4. So what is y? 2. Is that my answer? It's not the answer, is it? Because what did they ask for? They asked for KL. And KL's not either one of these sides, but what do we know about KL? It's the same. So we can plug it into either one of these to find the answer. So 5 times 2 plus 2, what does that leave me for KL? Can we get any easier than that stuff right there? That's just about as easy as we can make it, isn't it? Okay, so your assignment for today is going to be 1 through 8. That's all you got to do, 1 through 8. So you'll do 1 through 8 and then make sure that you have 6-4 finished if you haven't done that yet, okay? So I'm giving you a light assignment today so that we can make sure that you're caught up, all right? Does anybody have any questions? Okay.